I think people get tattooed because, there's not a lot of real stuff left in the world, and it's all like a 24-hour news cycle. Nothing lasts. With tattooing, it's blood, it's pain, it's permanence. When you get that needle in your skin for the first time, you have to be there. You can't just call it in. You have to sit there and take the pain, and then sit there and heal it, and then you got to live with the consequences of your action.
Good morning. Welcome to the Eastwood Podcast with your host, Horace Sumi. Today is Thursday, the 6th of June, 2024. So, in the news lately, it's that time of year, we're seeing negativity about tattooing. We're seeing articles based on a study that tattooing or being tattooed gives you a 21% more likely diagnosis of lymphomic cancer. And this has been getting all sorts of traction. It's all over the news here. The shop's been getting phone calls about our ink and all this stuff. And this whole study is about how people that have tattoos or have been tattooed are 21% more likely to develop lymphomic cancer over the course of their lifetimes. So I did a little bit of reading about this. I did a little bit of look in the study. And I can unequivocally say the study is fucking bullshit. We all know that for the last 15 years or so, there's been heaps of negative press about tattooing, how we're using car paint on people, house paint, this, that, and the other. In Europe, there's been the big push to ban the blues and greens in the color palette, which they successfully have done. Here in Australia, they tried to do the same thing, and with enough pushback and zero evidence to back up their claims, we had that squashed. So we don't have restrictions on ink here in Australia. Nor should we, right? I mean, look, as a tattooer, my number one fucking goal is not to kill my clients, right? And as every tattooer, and I'm talking about professionals here, right? Professional people that do anything do not want to hurt their clients. I am completely covered in tattoos from my neck to my ankles to my wrists, right? If I thought tattooing was going to give me cancer or I thought the inks were dangerous, I wouldn't have done that to myself. I quit smoking when I was young because I knew smoking was bad. I don't really drink anymore because I know drinking's not good for me. I don't eat processed food because I know processed food's not good for me. And I still get tattooed and still promote tattooing. My wife is tattooed. I tattoo for a living because I don't believe tattooing is bad for you because I did the research on the inks. I make my own inks from pigments that I source. But let's look at this study, all right? So this was a study. This was a University of Lund in Sweden, right? Lund University in Sweden. They went out to try and find a causality between being tattooed and getting lymphomic cancer. That was the purpose of the study. So already they're going into it trying to prove something. Look, I'm not a scientist, and I read the study. And I'll tell you, man, I don't fully understand how studies are written, right? But I got the gist. I read I read the whole thing, and I read also the synopsises done by Science Direct and the university, and so it's pretty fucking clear, even to a layman such as myself, how it worked. They put in a questionnaire to everybody who had lymphomic cancer that was between this age, and they got a percentage of people replied, and a percentage of those people had tattoos. They had a control group of people with no cancer and no tattoos, right? And, it's an epidemiological study. Sorry, that's a fucking mouthful at fucking 7 in the morning. Epidemiological fucking, you get the idea, right? So, it's based on statistics and it's based on people self-declaring. Right? And it took into account some things, but not other things, right? People smoke. People use all sorts of fucking products on their hair. They admit in the study that there's been a rise in lymphomic cancer due to pesticides, fire retardants, stuff in food, solvents, things in cosmetics, right? All sorts of stuff. But back to this study specifically, right? So the study came up with some crazy conclusions, right? Is that you're more likely to get cancer if your tattoo was done really recently. But the people that had tattoos for a long time weren't getting cancer. So that's fucking strange. It also said in the study, and this is the thing how you know it's bullshit, is that it didn't matter how big your tattoo was, right? If you have a full body suit, right, or a tiny little tattoo like this, you're actually more likely to get lymphoma cancer from a tiny little black outline tattoo or a little black and gray tattoo. Now, just on the face of that, it makes no fucking sense, right? They're trying to say that it's causing an autoimmune response, the body's pulling the pigment from the tattoo area, taking it to the lymph nodes, causing inflammation, etc., etc., etc. But I mean, I can tell you, right? Because I've studied this. There was a pigment specialist in, I think it was in Holland, that did a whole field of study using fake skin and having somebody tattoo it and then wiping it all away and actually measuring how much pigment gets and stays in the skin after a tattoo, after the tattoo is all said and done. And it's fucking minuscule. Like, it's a minuscule amount, right? And on a tiny little outline tattoo, I mean, holy shit, right? There's more heavy metals in a cup of coffee, right, than there is in a back piece of pigment. If we're looking at just heavy metals, for instance, right? The whole idea that a little tiny outline tattoo is giving people lymphoma cancer is completely disingenuous, and it makes no sense, right? People have been getting tattooed for a long, long, long time, right? And, you know, do you know anyone who's gotten cancer from a tattoo? Because I don't, and I'm in the tattoo world, right? I know a lot of people with bodysuits. I know a lot of people who have tattoos, who've been getting tattooed for, 40, 50 years, right? And there's never been talk. It's like AIDS, right? When AIDS came around, there's the big scare. It almost shut down the tattoo industry completely. And then it turns out you can't get fucking AIDS from a tattoo, right? Because AIDS fucking dies super quick. As soon as it comes out of the body, it's dead. But the scare was there, and the fear was there, and all this over-the-top hygiene stuff was brought into place. But the threat wasn't there, right? Although they tried. They tried really fucking hard, right? And the same with the hepatitis C thing. It's very fucking difficult to cross-transmit these bloodborne... people get infections and stuff. I'm talking about these specific ones, right? AIDS in particular was weaponized against the tattoo industry for a long time, right? Because there's people out there that fucking hate tattoos, that want to see it stopped. Whether it's politicians whose kid got tattooed, or doctors who are, don't like them, or whatever the case may be, right? There's people that really don't like tattoos, and they want to see it stopped. And that's why you see these negative stories in the press repeatedly. At the end of the day, even this study says there is no fucking proof that tattoos cause cancer, and that more studies to be done, and there's nothing that shows causality. It's just at the moment, the way they've structured the study and the way that it comes across, it's saying this, right? Statistically. There's actually nothing that actually shows. There's no mechanics, there's no science that actually shows that it causes cancer at all. So it's a fucking big nothing burger, but it's getting a lot of traction. They're trying to say that colored tattoos don't cause cancer as much as the small black and gray tattoos, which again makes no fucking sense, right? And again, I don't know the mechanics of how they've come to this conclusion specifically, but even by their own writings, there's no actual meat to this. There was another study done back in 2005 that tried to do the same thing, and their study showed zero fucking causality of tattooing and cancer. Null answer, right? And that was due, they're saying in this study, that was due to using lower numbers. They used more numbers in this one, but again, by their own declaration, there's no proof. They just want further study. So it's nothing, right? But I want people to feel secure about this, because if I'm doing a tattoo on somebody, I am not trying to give you cancer. And I'm not doing it, I'm not just hoping for the best or whatever like that. I don't believe that tattooing gives you cancer. I've met old people with tattoos, full body suits. And this is like Japanese dudes with full body suits that are 40, 50 years old. that were using pigments that probably were fucking not good for you, right? I mean, there are pigments out there that are heavy metal laden, that have things in them that aren't good for you, you know. And we don't use that here in the West because we use safe pigments, right? All the pigments that are being used in the West in the good shops, such as Authentic and the inks that I myself make, you know, they're all tested. They're safe. They are, you know, they've been used for a long time, and they are recognized as being safe to use, right? And so, just on the face of that alone, you know, we can see that it's really nothing to worry about. Things that, I mean, I am more concerned with things like, you know, what I eat, what I drink, what I smoke. These are the things that harm you. The cosmetics you put on your body every day, the things that seep into your skin, eating out of plastic, drinking out of plastic, microwaving your food in plastic, all these kinds of things, right? These are things that make people sick and make people sick every day. And these are the things that give you cancer, right? Tattooing's been around for a long fucking time, as we know, right? Long, long, long time. And there's never been a correlation between illness and tattooing. Even in Japan, in the old days, like in the 1800s and the early 1900s, when they were using, like, say, cadmium red, right? And people would get like swelling and a little bit of a fever, and you can only do a little bit of red at a time, right? Those tattoos still healed. Those people were fine, right? People weren't dropping dead from tattoos. So I just want everyone to feel assured that as long as you're going to a good tattoo artist who's using, you know, good brands of ink, right? And brands, everyone's saying, you know, what's the brands? I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna tell you some brands that I think are good, right? I don't use them myself, but I think they're good. You got Solid Ink, which is good. You got Fusion, which is good. Waverly Ink is good. You know, the inks that are based on pigment powder, I think, are the best. The ones that are what's called a dispersion, which are sent from the factory already in a liquid form that gets diluted with whatever medium you want, whatever, you know, consistency you want. I don't like those as much. But if you're using an ink that's been around for years, that everyone around the world uses, you'll be fine. If you're getting tattooed by some guy in a fucking kitchen who bought his inks off eBay, you know, I can't help you, right? That's just stupid, right? If you're going to third world country and getting tattooed by some guy buying his inks from Alibaba, again, I can't help you. You can't put that in the same category, right? You really can't. You know, you can't say that all tattooings are the same either, and say, well, that ink's fucking bad for you and that ink's this, right? They're all different, right? If you're using quality stuff, you're going to be fine. Again, I put my money where my mouth is. I'm covered, right? So that's you know, I'm just looking at my notes here, right? Because I don't want to miss anything. This is an important subject, and again, you know, this kind of negative news, and let's call it misinformation, right? Medical misinformation, is the kind of stuff that spurs legislation. Like in Europe, like I said, the blue and green palette have been made illegal. A lot of countries in Europe, it's very hard to find good colors now because they banned them. And it's all based on this kind of stuff, which isn't based in reality, right? I mean, they'll feed you garbage food. You can vape all you want. You can do all these things that poison you. But they want to focus on this for whatever reason, right? I'm not sure what the reason is. Why people hate tattooing so much, but they do, right? And again, this wasn't a problem before tattooing went mainstream. But since it's gone mainstream, you know, and everyone's getting tattooed, they seem to want to squash it a little bit, right? So yeah, so that's my take on the ink thing. Look, if you have questions about it, I know quite a bit about ink. I'm not going to go into all the details and the weeds now, but you can DM me, or you can, you know, write me an email or something like that, and we can talk more about it. All right? I hope that clears up a little bit of things, a little bit of stuff for you. And like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. All right? Have a good one.